G'day there, Signets and Swanlings. 2012 Premiership player Nick Smith here. It's my pleasure, as always, to introduce a bevy of bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club, brought to you by Noddy and Stevo, a pair of red and white tragics. So pop on the kettle and settle in as the boys had an in-depth chat about the Swans' last game, the Swans' next game, and a little bit about footy too. This is Nick Smith signing off until next week's episode. But in the meantime, remember, be good to your bloods and they'll be good to you.
Alrighty, welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods. I'm Chris, and with Noddy seeing the sunshine in Fiji, we are unfortunately seeing the suns on this side, segue. But alongside me, we have another Bevy crew member, Brett. Brett, welcome back to the potty.
Very good, Chris.
That's it.
Thanks.
One of us is a dad, but I've got the dad jokes. That's what's going on, mate. That's what's happening.
Got me covered.
In this episode 37, we're going to be reviewing the Swannies round 8 game. So fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved bloods. Saturday, day game. Our Sydney Swans lost to the Gold Coast Suns by 14 points. A final score of 8-13-61 to Gold Coast's 10-15-75. So, Beretti, first impressions, what's on?
Well, I think most of us would agree. It just seemed flat. Didn't seem to be a whole lot of energy there.
Yeah, look, it was a pretty soft effort, it felt, from the very, very beginning. I mean, we were at the game and it kind of felt, I don't know how you felt, whether you felt the same way, but it felt like from the very beginning, the crowd and the team really weren't in it from the beginning. The effort wasn't quite there.
Yeah, I think those 4 Suns fans that were sitting over in the away section were probably louder than the whole O'Reilly stand. So, yeah, it said probably a lot about the game and the general vibe.
Yeah, for sure. And look, even like the barometers, like, McInerney, he loves to get up and around it, but even he seemed pretty flat. I mean, he didn't really chase after a couple of people. It just seemed like across the board we weren't in the game from the very beginning. And it was a poor effort by not only the team, the fans, also the bar. The bar closest to us in the O'Reilly stand closed up at halftime. Now that's just poor effort across the ground. What do you think?
Absolutely. It's Saturday afternoon. It's an early game. Sun was shining. Yeah, I didn't see. Well, actually, I could see why they closed it, but I think we all need to lift fans and players.
Yep, and concessions as well, I think. So I guess key takeaways and stats. What did you see from the game that you probably want to point out?
One thing that was obvious to us anyway, we were obviously sitting there chatting about it, was just things were missing, as in handballs not going where they needed to and kicks missing the mark. There was some, I think we got some stats here. We got Mills was running at 65% efficiency. In the game against the Lions, he was running at 73%. Warner was at 63% with his disposals, where he's at nearly 80% the week before. Parker, same 56%, which is very low, where he was at up around 73 against the Lions. McInerney, just under 70% at 67%. And Robo about the same at 69. And Robo was at 80% in the Lions. So huge drop in efficiency. There were lots of groans around the crowd throughout the day, more than usual. I felt anyway. What do you think? Yeah,
no, I think you've nailed it there. It really was. It kind of felt like the engine room was just never firing properly. I don't know whether they felt they were rattled. I didn't necessarily see the Gold Coast putting incredible amounts of pressure around the boys there, but they definitely seemed like they were just rattled. They just couldn't get anything really rolling there. And I mean, in the third quarter, we just looked at the stats before we started here. Millsy, who's normally, around it all and has propelled the team in the last few weeks really well. Third quarter, 56% disposal efficiency on 9 disposals. In the fourth quarter, he had 2 touches at 50% efficiency. So one of those is a bit of a dodge. So just never really got in it, really. You had some numbers on Wits as well, I think.
Yeah, there's it's very sad to say that Laddams got absolutely destroyed by Wits through the game, which was a shame. We all like the ladder. Is that what we call it?
Ladders,
ladder?
yeah.
Ladders, yeah. 37 hitouts to 16 Wits over Laddams. That's huge. I mean, you're just not getting first use of the footy if your ruckman's not getting it to you. So that made a big difference around the middle, which, did we finish the game -7 in clearances? And I think we were chatting ourselves that I feel like the few times that Laddams, where he did win or where he got a hit out to advantage, it was to himself. I remember he did a couple of those. So, yeah, our midfielders just weren't getting it from the hit out. So I imagine that had a huge part to play in the end result.
Yeah, well, with only 4 hitouts to advantage for Laddams. So, yeah, like you're saying, 37 hitouts for Wits, 16 to Laddams. Just really wasn't in it. He just didn't seem like he was there. He came off with a rolled ankle, I think, in the second or third.
Yeah.
But he came back on without any problem. It looked like they strapped him up and he got out there again. So I don't know whether he was carrying something during the game that didn't let him fire off. But yeah, it looks like we're kind of dire for a bit of hickey action to come back. But they may be sharing that spot. Yeah, the other number I looked at was the -14 inside 50s. Like, we weren't getting inside our 50 at all. I think that fourth quarter was a testament to the whole game. It's just we tried so hard to get it out of our defensive half and into our forward, and we just could not get it going. Everything we tried just never got through. Skillful players were bargaining up kicks. We weren't really hitting anyone on the run or anyone kind of in space. We're just pumping it forward and hoping for the best. And the Suns just were sitting there waiting for it, just propel it back in again, and then we're defending like crazy. But
yeah, it was like they had some sort of wall set up, which I've got to say, maybe they had a good defensive game plan. Well, a good forward defensive game plan. The Suns, they did seem to just keep it locked in there. If you looked at the heat map, I can't remember which quarter it was, but our possession was just all in our own 50. It was, it's very hard to score or get inside 50s if you're trapped inside your own. So, yeah, I think the Suns just did a number on us by keeping us pressured and forcing those. It didn't feel like there was a high tempo game or anything like that. They were pressuring us to do things wrong. Maybe they just had their structure right.
The game felt small. It felt like there was no room anywhere. Our guys just weren't getting into pockets of space. Like, they tied it up at the end of the third quarter with Logan's kick, we'll talk about in a second. But that last quarter, we had a great defensive game. It was +6 pressure acts by Joey, Lloyd, Warner, Rowbottom. So they're all doing their job around the ball to try to will it forward, but just the options just weren't there. We weren't getting anything done with it. So what are you going to do? One of the things I noticed as well, just on a general play, was not blocking up that option, that easy option just over the mark. So, 10, 15 meters ahead of where the mark is, just outside the inside 50, that little hole there, the one that Rampy absolutely blasted Warner about a couple of weeks ago, that space we let go a few times in the game and just gave him an easier kind of a way into the inside 50. So there's some pockets of defense that we're not filling up. And I don't know, just felt like the Gold Coast just chewed up on it. It just made an absolute meal of it. We just loved it, and so we let them have it. So it's a bit of a shame, but hey, we come back hopefully stronger. So it's a bit tougher during the losses, as you know, Brett. But what was your favorite moment of the game, individual or team or both?
Kind of stuck with me. I don't know. Did you have any particular team moment that you that comes to mind?
Not really. Not really. I mean, the general defensive effort in that fourth quarter was amazing across the board. But yeah, I'm with you. There was no kind of link-up play or anything of that nature that made me think, wow, that was a fantastic moment where we put it together really well. It just seemed that we schnitzeled it up some point. We would, pump it in a bit too hard or, over to a contest and nothing would really get going. So, yeah, I really didn't find a whole lot from a team perspective of a nice big moment where we kind of gelled it together. It seems like we kind of let it fall apart at some point there.
Yeah, I think they let us off a bit in that fourth as well. They had I don't know, what did they missed quite a few set shots too, so it could have been, yeah, although we did have a big general defensive effort, I still think they probably should have been a bit further ahead at the end of the game.
Yeah, well, we only had the 2 scoring shots in that last quarter, and they had the 5, it looks like. So 6, actually.
Yeah.
So they kicked 2 and 4 in that last one. So they didn't really put too much pressure on the scoreboard for us, but we just could not keep up at all with scoring only the 2 behinds, which is not going to win you a game in that fourth quarter, as we know.
Just not good enough.
No. Well, look, there are a little bit of shining lights. We can talk about the ABOB medal, which is the equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. Bevy's best bloods this week in 3, 2, 1 points order were Warner, Paddy McCartan, and Blakey. So, Brady, do you want to talk about Warner?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love this guy? He's been great this year. Like you said, a bit of a shining light in a fairly dark day for us on Saturday. Yeah, he puts in hard. He's always there to. I like that he arches his back. Him and Blakey we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think he led the. He got quite a few inside 50s. He was putting it in there. Maybe he could have had some better leads, or maybe he could have lowered his eyes a little better. I don't know whether he was bombing most of them from halfway, but anyway, he was getting it in there, and I love the way he goes about it.
Yeah, he's a good kid. He's been consistently in the top 5 every week in the ABOB medal, so he's definitely getting around it, and he's getting his love. So he might not score high in the medal for this year because he's only had a couple of instances where he's gotten in the top 3 here as far as this scorecard is concerned, but he definitely is around it every single week. So that's a really good sign. He had 1 goal, 3, so 4 scoring shots. 7 tackles, 19 disposals, which is a bit low for him on a general sense. 6 inside 50s, like you mentioned, most by the Swans. 16 pressure acts, the second at the Swans for the game. So he definitely was around it. He put some effort in. I think he kind of got away with not being tagged and not having as much attention as maybe a couple of the other players do. There's not as many talented players on the Gold Coast Suns. And so he kind of got to run a bit, and he did a good job with it. So good on him. Paddy McCartan with number 2, Brett. What do you think?
Yeah, I love watching Paddy. I've loved him since he's started with us this year. Obviously, we all held our breath a couple of weeks ago when he took 2 knocks anyway. But geez, it was good to see him back last week, still backing into contests without any concern for his, well, maybe he does, but he doesn't appear to show it anyway. But yeah, I just love watching him, especially when he works with his brother. They've got great ability to, Tommy, it works both ways, but typically it seems like Tommy provides a bit of a block and Paddy just comes in and cleans it up out of the air. I mean, you've got the stats on him, but what were the stats?
So 6 intercept marks, 12 intercept possessions. So he's definitely, he's kind of like the rebounder, isn't he, in a way? So he had I remember one kick that was pretty dodge. Got out there, two dodgy kicks. Yeah. But amongst it, he also had some really nice field kicks from the wing, trying to propel it forward. So he's definitely doing his job. Those two, they're playing better and better every week, right? Is it just me, or they're starting to really feel each other?
Oh, obviously I think they live together as well.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, anyway, they seem to work well together. And remembering they were both forwards in their juniors, weren't they?
Yeah.
And Paddy's, he's learning how to play at the back, just like Tommy did. as well. So, I mean, if he keeps getting better, we're going to be very lucky to have him sitting in the back line. So, yeah, I feel like both of them are improving. I think earlier in the year I was expecting Tommy to have a big year, but I feel like Paddy's probably had a little bit more of an impact since he's come in. And yeah, Saturday he was one of the few better players for us.
Yeah, playing the role for sure. Number 3, I guess, getting 1 point was Blakey. How do you think his game went? What was the points that you saw there out of his game?
He gave a couple, or they were almost highlight moments. I think a couple of times he arched his back and went, and it was just exciting to watch. I think he got 2 or 3 bounces at one point on one run. Yeah, he was great to watch. He only had 3 inside 50s we spoke about that seemed quite surprising. And because he was running all day, I think he led. I was reading this. I checked when I was checking the player stats on the day. I think he must have run over 500 meters. So big day. And I mean, who doesn't love him? It's good to see him, doing what we love seeing from him. But just unfortunately, there weren't enough around him putting in the same effort. Yeah,
kind of like his role got freed up a little bit. I think last week against the Lions, he was sat on a bit of a tag. He had a man to mark, so he couldn't get out for a run too much. And when he's got that ability to go for a run, he takes it really well. Like, I think he's starting to choose his moments a bit better too. He's been caught out a couple of times, but lately he's definitely been. He's had the right idea of getting out there. Yeah, 3 inside 50s only for Blakey. We were talking about it before. I'm really surprised, and we both figured maybe he was just field kicking or wasn't getting super deep into our 50s. I thought it would have been a lot higher the way that I watched the game, but yeah, surprised with that stuff.
It felt like that, yeah. But yeah, he definitely deserved a point out of all the boys.
And 25 disposals, 18 of them being kicks. So that's a very high percentage in kicks. That's just showing him propelling the game into our 50. So that's his game. That's what he does. Yeah, look, the consistent Blake is good and is an exciting bloody player to watch. So keep that up. What about in honourable mentions? Was there any players there that you kind of felt it was just hard done by not to get the extra point or half a point if we were being generous?
I guess if you don't see him much, then he's doing a good job. Rampy on Chol, I felt both of them. You didn't really notice either of them throughout the game, which means Rampy's doing a good job on him. So I felt Rampy must have done all right there. What do you think?
Yeah, I loved it. I think Rampy has had some dodgy games lately, or just not being at his best. Jules was strong about it last week. I remember, just felt that he really needed to come in a bit better, and I felt this week was a decent show by the defensive line generally, and by Rampy as well. So
yeah. I've got to say, he does. I feel like he's been 1 or 2 steps behind a few of the guys he's been on. Just in the past few games anyway. But yeah, so Rampy, the other honourable mention I might give was, I did notice being at the ground watching Callum worked hard through the day, as he always does. Mills, a lot of his leads went unrewarded. I don't know if the guys were just not confident to try and hit the short kick, especially when he's leading, from halfway towards our defensive 50. But I feel like Mills still put in a big effort. He just, as we talked about, it just wasn't as efficient as he usually was. But I think he gets a little bit of a mention just because of the amount of times he was there with his arms down, waiting to be hit. But no one honoured it.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I agree. I think he was amongst it, just couldn't get it going, unfortunately, like the other week. So we can't rely on him every week, but effort's there. I felt effort's there.
You gotta love him though.
Yeah, I love him. Absolutely love him. The other ones that I had were McLean. I felt he looked pretty decent. Also in the ruck, he had 17 ruck contests, 7 hitouts. So that's a decent percentage for him there. So he held up his part of the bargain. when Laddams needed some time off. So that was positive. I would like to see how that goes. We've got Hickey coming back into the game, and Amati is absolutely killing it in the VFL. So I feel that we may see some things change up potentially. But for the most part, McLean is doing a pretty good job getting his big body around and kicking a couple goals while he was at it. And the other one we spoke about was Tom McCartan, 7-1 percenters. Like, he really was running around trying to making sure that he had his hand on the ball, putting himself between the goals, picking out the most dangerous man, working really well with his brother to allow him to get the intercept mark, as you were saying, with being a bit of a blocker. So, yeah, I felt Tommy McCartan deserved. It was hard done by, maybe not to get at least a bit of a point, but considering how much the game relied on their shoulders towards the end there. But it is what it is, Tommy. What are you going to do? You'll pick up some extra points down the line.
Deserves a mention. Yep.
Deserves a mention. Now, coaches' votes came through today, and not a single Swan mentioned. We've goes Wits, Powell, Swallow, Rao, Fiorini. I always fuck up this name. How's it go? Fiorini, Collins, Ellis, and Rankin. Not a single Swan mentioned in that top 10. So it's a bit, that top 7 or so. So that's a bit sad to see. It is what it is. It's just no one really stood out as far as the coaches are concerned. How do you feel about that one?
Yeah, I guess it was reflective of the broader sentiment on the game, perhaps. You would have thought one or two players might have got one vote, like Paddy, for example, for keeping us in it defensively, or even Blakey, just because of the amount of running he did. And it kind of felt like he was breaking the game open in little parts. But look, I mean, the coaches know the game a whole lot better than I do. So I'm gonna have to agree with them.
Don't have to, but we will. So AFL best on ground also had Warner, Lloyd, Parker, Blakey, and McCartan in that order. So we were a bit different, but for the most part, the names were kind of there. Look, one of the things I took away from the game, I was mentioning to you before, was the general demeanor of the Swans fans was hilarious. As we're leaving the game, we're heading towards the tram station, and there's a sign that actually says, if you go to the top of the stairs, you'll be able to make your way onto the platform to go towards Central. So anyone that's been to the game and is from Sydney will know exactly what I'm talking about. So all those Swans fans that saw that sign went, sweet, another way to get down to the platform, went up the stairs, saw that they had cordoned off that section to get down to the station, and they were livid. That was the straw on the camel's back. They were like, "Are you kidding me? The game and now this is what I got to go through." They weren't having any of it. So it was a very hostile crowd leaving the stadium on Saturday. It's a bit concerning for the rest of the community around the SCG.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the station staff who are manning that sign. But I felt their frustration. We all did.
Yeah, they weren't.
And
were not
just
happy.
a kick in the guts. Just all you want to do is console yourself with a beer.
And our mate Sam was around as well. He was not particularly happy. That was also his final straw, where he just didn't want none of it. So heads up to you, man.
Showed his passion through the game. Good to see.
He did. We'll see you again there, Sam. So it's all good, mate. A couple of things we put up after the match. There was no injuries that I saw. Only one that happened to Laddams, where he came off with a rolled ankle, strapped it up, came back on again. He was okay. Nothing else came back. We still, in terms of injuries, we've got Fox has come back, apparently starting to go through some game scenarios. So he looks like he's going to get some time back on via the AFL soon enough, the VFL rather, soon enough. Sheldrick is expected to come back halfway through the season with his knee surgery. And you've got a couple of others like Stretch Andrews coming back as well soon enough. So we've got more or less a healthy 22. So that's kind of what we want. So we do have the options to start talking about what that looks like with replacements if we feel we need to. The VFL players play Werribee and they absolutely smashed them. By what's that, 70-odd points, so 102-32. And Amati, Bell, Taylor, and Sinclair best on ground. So it looks like Amati is killing it in the VFL and putting up his hand for another opportunity. What's that sit on your side there, Brady?
Well, let's hope it brings out the Amadi party sooner rather than later. I'd love to see him go well. I think everyone would love to see him back playing some regular first team footy. So, any word on how? I know he kicked a goal, but was there any talk around how Hickey went? Just on the back of our chat around lads getting dominated by wits.
Just decimated. I don't know, actually. I never looked it up. So while we're talking here, I'll see if I can find those stats.
Anyway, it'd be good to know if he's looking good himself. I think it'd be good to have Hickey back in there. But as you said, best on ground, if it was Amadi, Bell, Taylor and Sinclair, then there's 4 names we're familiar with. I'm quite happy to have back in the team. Though you would probably, my personal preference, if we're talking ruck choices, would be Hickey back in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get to watch the game, but it sounds like a bit of a shellacking for Werribee.
Yeah, poor Werribee. Like, I think Hickey was just out there just to get some time on his legs. I don't know how much he really did in the game. So, but it's probably worthwhile watching that back anyway. Do you see anyone sitting out after this week, Brett? Did you feel that there's probably worthwhile a shake-up of the players in the game?
Well, who we talked about as being, because you've got Ronk, Belly, a few players just kind of floating around that. With Papley out, there was more talk around it. But if Bell's playing well, and I don't know, do you think Ronk might get talked about being pushed away? And you got Wicks there. Doesn't sound like he was one of the better players against Werribee, but he's floating around as well. So if Bell's playing well and Ronk I barely even saw him on the weekend, is there potential to kind of maybe give him a spell and look at bringing Bell back into the team?
Yeah, probably that Bell spot, that pressure forward. Bell, Ronk, and Wicks had been holding that down. Wicks sat out a week. And then Bell and Ronk were sharing that role when what's our man? The plumber.
Paps
was out.
The plumber.
The plumber. When he was out. So now that he's back, he obviously holds his spot, just given the quality of game that he's got available to him. So, yeah, Ronk and Bell at this point kind of look like they're going to be sharing that position, whoever's kind of firing a bit better, basically. I think it was a pretty unified approach to see Ronk hold that spot, considering how well he was playing the last few weeks. And I don't think he played a bad game at all, but maybe that's the kind of role that gets shared around to keep him hungry, basically, depending on the game, depending on the matchup. But we could also see Amadi roll up forward, to kind of be an extra tall in that side. But I still feel we're probably very, very tall anyway already with McLean, Logan, Buddy. So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty tall. I feel like we're just missing leads. Like, I can't tell you. I feel like I'm just never seeing our forwards leading hard, like Paps was doing a year or two ago and providing, that strong lead with his defender 3 steps behind him. So whoever we've got sitting in there, I'd love to see more, laces out into the chest with our forward 4 or 5 meters in front of his defender, but I just haven't seen a huge amount of that this year.
And then, look, the other name that comes around that is just refusing, the Swans fans on Twitter and Insta and everyone's just refusing to let go of, is Will Gould. They are so toey to see him play. Like, he's a big lad and he's got talent. We haven't seen him play in the seniors yet, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but there's been some absolute belligerent fans on Twitter trying to get him in. So, yeah, we never know. Maybe the pressure was just too much for the selectors soon enough.
Yeah, I guess maybe get another cult figure. Maybe he'll become one of those.
Like an LRT style cult figure.
Yeah, the big unit.
The big
young
unit.
big unit who may get bigger.
Yeah, well, he's only going to get bigger, right? He's already a pretty big lad. So we'll see. They'll make once he gets selected in, they'll make a lot of Swans fans pretty happy, I think, because they've been looking to see him playing the seniors to see how his body holds up and his fitness and effort and his speed of reading the game holds up in the seniors. So let's see where we go there. There's a couple of things that kind of came out of the game as well. Our man Joey, the champion, has overtaken Sam Mitchell in the highest clearance getter of all time. 2 clearances on the game, I believe, or 2 or 3. And now he's overtaken Sam Mitchell to take that AFL prize all by himself. So there we go. Joey as the greatest clearance man of the game's history. That's incredible, Brady.
Yeah, I mean, not only does he have the best set of pipes in the game, but now he's got the greatest stat around clearances. So yeah, that's a monster effort. Sam, as you know, well, for those that got to watch him, Sam Mitchell was just a ball magnet, and yeah, in and under, in the middle. And for Joey, there's loads of good players that he's ahead of. So I feel like apart from you bringing this up, there hasn't been much talk around it. It probably needs a little more fanfare.
I'm surprised. It's actually there. Zane Red and White and a couple of the guys on Twitter were mentioning it, and I'm surprised that it's not really taken off. It's not been a big action item. And the other one that he's chasing down, he's got 3 more contested possessions in order to take over Gary Ablett Jr. as the highest contested possessions man of the AFL history. Like, those 2 stats are insane. Like Gary Ablett Jr., the man himself at 4,000 contested possessions, Joey's about to overtake him. Like, and his averages are well beyond Ablett Jr. too. Like, just nailing it.
Yeah, I mean, to take over Sam Mitchell in clearances is one thing, but to beat the little master himself in contested possessions, and I mean, this is a little presumptuous. We're assuming he gets there, but 3 more. I mean, he's definitely averaging more than that when he's playing on the ball. So you'd think, fingers crossed, he'll get there on Saturday night. But yeah, for me, that's an even bigger effort to overtake Gary himself.
A little master for sure. One of the best. One of the other things that happened on the weekend, which was fun, was the 2012 Premiership 10-year anniversary lap of honour. Earlier in the week, the papers were saying that Goodsy was not going to be there, and the article seemed like a bit of clickbaity. And it mentioned that the article, when you read into it, came across quite soft, like it was genuine. It said effectively, Goodsy's not going to be there, but he had prior commitments. It's not a problem. He's done a lot for the club. So they're very soft in the terminology, but the headline itself was clickbaity, and anything related to Goodsy, of course, gets a bunch of people riled up in a bunch of different ways. So, but after all of that, he turned up to the game. He turned up to the night before, and he turned up to do the lap of honour. So we got to see our man Goodsy in person, which was amazing. Along
with a bunch of other, they're legends to us. Anyway, there's some good photos of the guys there. Malcheski's Tash was looking sensational. Hanbury in his all black get up.
Yeah.
Black shirt, black pants, looking good. It was good to see them there. Now, I arrived at the ground just at around bounce, so I missed the lap of honour because I had to get a 1-year-old to the game. But that would have been great to see them all doing a little walk.
Well, yeah, a couple of things there. Yeah, Malcheski's moustache. Jetta just being a hilarious human being all the time, just in every photo, just being funny. And Nick Smith, friend of the show, and Grundy were just inseparable. It looked like they were just like the old gang, just like beating up the forwards all over again. It was hilarious.
Yep, they were inseparable at one point. Well, we needed them. Yeah, that was good. Just on the goods thing, I guess he always loved the club. His gripe would have been more with the AFL, and rightfully so. But he loved the Swans, and he loved those guys that he won the premiership with. So it was no surprise to see him turn up.
Yeah, for sure. An absolute champion of the club. As we said on one of our Twitters, at the end of the day, Goodsy owes nothing to the Swans or the fans. We love him to death. So to see him there is just icing on the cake. So good on you, Goodsy. We love you.
And I think,
absolutely love you.
if you listen to Horse's post-game conference, I don't know which reporter brought it up, but just asked about, and yeah, Horse just said, look, he was just, it was just awesome to see him there with guys he loves, his mates, and that was all it needed to be.
That's it. Didn't need any more than that. Another thing in the Swans news, Kenny got back for a game, which is grand. He's been a bit unwell lately, and it looked like he made it to the game. And before the game, Buddy gave him one of his commemorative boots for the kick in the 1000, which was brilliant to see. So Kenny back at the game. Couldn't get the win for him, unfortunately. I would have loved to have seen Kenny go down there at halftime and just give him a spray, but I don't know if he had that in him at the moment. But yeah, good to see him back anyway, and amongst it all.
Yeah, awesome to see.
A couple of other things around the news, quick ones. We talk about female umpires lately. It's been in the media. On the good news front, Di Fireland is a female umpire who's umpired 1,500 games, like monumental effort. So let's do. I'm going to do the maths here on this Excel. So just say she does 2 games a weekend. It's basic math, right?
That's lots.
750. All right, and then divide that by how many weeks in a year, assuming they play every single week, 14 years, but they don't. So let's divide that multiply by 2. So we're looking at 28 years worth of umpiring, give or take. Umpiring half the year, playing 2 games a week. Like, that's massive. Like, how fit is she?
That's huge. Is it uncouth if I ask you her age to see how many years she might have been umpiring for? I feel like she must have been umpiring since she was in the juniors. But anyway, huge effort, phenomenal. Deserves a. Did he get a shout out on the AFL pages?
It did, yeah, and that's kind of what we got word of it. 32 years she's been doing it for, so that's huge. Like, what can you say? And it's like, not only is it obviously a testament to just professionalism and being out there every single week and doing what she loves for the game, it's also being a bit of a pioneer as a female umpire. And in the news lately, we've had some pretty dodgy reports of some female umpires of just general abuse and sexual abuse going on. So we need good stories like this. We need stories like Di to be around in order for us to kind of get through some of the horrific parts of the bloody game that we've got going on. But at least we're kind of learning from it. At least we're learning that it exists and we can do something with it. So good on you, Di. 1,500 games, mad effort.
Indeed, that's massive, and maybe one day she'll listen to the podcast and hear the shout out from us. But well done, Di.
That's it. I don't think she's a Swans fan, but that's okay. We'll let her have this one. Bombers next week, Saturday. Brady, do you have any tips, best, worst memories against the Bombers?
Oh, I didn't even have to think about this one. It was a few years back when we were all sitting at the SCG on, I think it was a Friday or Saturday night. Can't remember anyway, but Rampy puts it in and Gazza takes it one-handed on the line on the buzzer to win it. I don't know that there's going to be a better win than that one.
Oh, that was huge. I remember Harps, one of our friends, just like pogoing up and down the stairs like a 3-year-old little boy. We were all going absolutely ballistic. What a fantastic game. We hit the town pretty hard that night. I do remember that much. We've had a few close games with them lately anyway. So last year, round 4, we won 83-80 at the SCG. They looked really good. And it looked like, from memory, we just clawed the game through. We managed to save it. And round 20, another close game, 109-102 down in Melbourne. We clawed it back in the second half. Yeah, so it looks like we've kind of got a bit of a thing recently of just playing close with them. So they had an absolute screamer game against Hawthorn. They beat Hawthorn in the fourth quarter. Sound familiar? No different to the way that we did it, although we did it in much more spectacular fashion. They kind of looked like they pulled some of their team into form. So a bit of a danger game, Brady. Do you have any tips of how do you think you're going to go?
Well, look, my thoughts are that we should win it, even though on the back of what we saw on the weekend, you'd be within your rights to, with the Bombers winning only their second game of the year, you'd think maybe they're a chance. But I feel like we've still got the team to beat them. From what I've read, I haven't watched much of the Bombers this year. I mean, it looks like Parrish has come back and is, doing his thing. But and Heppel, he's definitely a solid player. There's a few guys like Stream. They have got some talent around there, but I just think we've got more. So I feel like we should win this one Saturday night. Nothing more really to say. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm the same. I feel we've got a better team consistently around the ground. I feel we will bounce back after this game, and our defensive line is much stronger than Hawthorn's. I feel at least one-on-one, we're much stronger. So let's see where we end up. But I would be tipping the Swans in a dangerous tip, and you shouldn't be listening to me. But that's what I'm feeling anyway.
This is not financial advice, people. I wouldn't mind seeing another tight one, though. If we've had a couple of tight wins recently, I always like to see a close one, especially on a Friday, Saturday night. It's always fun. And
are you bringing your little boy to the Saturday night game?
No, we might leave this as an adults-only affair.
Is there? All right, so I will say that you did the 1-year-old to a game in spectacular fashion, where he actually dealt with it perfectly fine, went for a walk with my girlfriend and everything. Is there a secret to it? What's the plan? Hot chips, a beer?
Apple is the secret. That's a 35-minute waiting period to finish an apple. So there's one quarter covered, some hot chips to cover another, and don't feed your 1-year-old hot chips, people. It's not ideal, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get through the game. Otherwise, a book and pass him around to your friends like a footy.
Yeah, that's basically it. We all had a cuddle, so that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right, well, this brings us to the end of the episode. So on behalf of the Bevy, I would like to say thank you very much for listening in, even though the game didn't go our way. It's always a tough one. Tune again in on Thursday night for our team announcements and preview posts. Otherwise, make sure you keep following us on Instagram and Facebook at A Bevy of Bloods for updates and announcements and all the other fun stuff we do. And until then, up the Bloods.
Up the Bloods.
Can you Swannies.
Can you Swannies.
Swans.